It only takes a moment of quiet to drift back to a Britain that feels both familiar and impossibly distant. Picture a typical 1980s street, the low rumble of a double-decker pulling away, the clatter of shop doors, handwritten signs fading in the windows, and the faint hiss of a cassette player somewhere in the background. Families passed by with canvas bags, neighbors chatted outside corner shops, and life moved at a pace that felt steady, unhurried, almost gentle compared to today's constant rush. What's remarkable isn't just how things looked, but how people behaved. Everyday habits we barely questioned then would raise eyebrows now. Most of us lived through it, yet even we forget how different it truly was. And as we revisit those moments, we uncover a world that changed far faster than we realized, guiding us into the next chapter. What truly set the 1980s apart wasn't just the fashion, the music, or the decor, it was the rhythm of everyday life. This was a Britain untouched by smartphones, online shopping, or endless notifications. If you needed something, you walked to the local shops. If you wanted to speak to someone, you knocked on their door. People relied on memory, handwritten notes, and simple routines that shaped the flow of each day. Communities worked on trust, with neighbors keeping an eye out, children learning independence early, and families using their own judgment rather than following long lists of guidelines. There were fewer layers of rules, fewer detailed instructions, and far less structure around ordinary behavior. People made do, improvised, and found comfort in shared understanding. Today, life feels carefully managed. Digital reminders, online advice, and technology guiding even the smallest decisions. Back then, the world felt more hands-on, more human, and far more spontaneous. And it's this contrast between a looser, freer Britain and the carefully organized world we know now that helps us understand why so many once ordinary behaviors seem astonishing today, leading naturally into the everyday habits that defined the era. What makes the 1980s so fascinating is how ordinary life felt completely normal at the time, yet now seems almost unbelievable. One of the biggest differences was the way children played. Protective gear was more of an optional extra than a requirement. You'd see kids racing their bikes down sloping pavements, gliding on roller boots, or climbing the tallest frame in the local park without a second thought. The laughter, the echo of wheels on concrete, the thrill of movement, it all felt natural. Today, with modern guidelines and organized play areas, that carefree atmosphere has softened into something far more supervised. Another everyday behavior was the relaxed approach to home security. Many families left their front doors loosely latched, or even slightly open, trusting neighbors to keep an eye out. It wasn't seen as careless. It was simply how communities worked. People popped next door without phoning ahead, borrowed a cup of sugar, or checked in on one another. That quiet confidence in the street around you created a sense of belonging that feels rare today. When even small homes often rely on layers of technology to stay secure, walking to school alone from a young age was another sign of the era's independence. You'd join friends along the pavement, crossing familiar routes lined with corner shops and bus stops. Parents watched from the doorway, knowing the journey would teach responsibility. Today, timetables, organized routes, and supervised drop-offs have replaced that early freedom. It wasn't better or worse, just different, shaped by a quieter world that ran on trust. Public payphones offer another window into that world. There were more than metal boxers on street corners. They were social hubs. People queued patiently with coins in their pockets, rehearsing numbers they'd memorized rather than stored in a device. Conversations had a gentle urgency, knowing someone else was waiting. Today, instant communication has removed that ritual entirely. It's efficient, yes, but something about the shared experience, the waiting, the hushed words, the moment of connection, belongs firmly to the past. Then there was the era of household improvisation. If something broke, a lamp, a toy, a loose drawer, families tended to fix it themselves with whatever was available. A bit of tape, a spare screw, or a clever workaround could keep something going for years. Calling an expert was seen as a last resort, not a first step. That resourcefulness shaped a generation that learned to problem solve long before online tutorials existed. Public transport had its own relaxed rhythm as well. You boarded a bus with loose coins, nodded to the driver, and found a seat without worrying about digital tickets or scanning anything. Drivers recognized regular passengers, offered a friendly word, and often used their own judgment in the moment. It made travel feel personal, almost communal. In a way, modern systems rarely replicate, and perhaps nothing captures the atmosphere of the time better than open-air markets. Stalls ran purely on trust and cash, with handwritten prices and friendly negotiation. You'd chat with a stallholder, feel the texture of produce, and make decisions based on instinct rather than online reviews. Today's structured systems may be convenient, but those simple interactions helped shape a sense of connection that defined the decade. These behaviors weren't extraordinary back then. They were woven into daily life, and understanding them helps us see just how much the world has shifted, preparing us for a deeper emotional reflection on what those years truly meant. Looking back, those everyday behaviors were never just routines. They were the foundations of how we learned to move through the world. There was a quiet freedom woven into the 1980s, a belief that people could rely on their instincts and find their way without constant guidance. Children discovered confidence through simple independence, whether walking to school or fixing something that had come loose at home. These moments built resilience long before we had names for it. Communities, too, played a powerful role. Trust wasn't an ideal. It was a daily practice. You knew your neighbors, recognized familiar faces on the bus, and felt rooted in something larger than yourself. Even small interactions, a borrowed tool, a friendly chat at the market, created a sense of belonging that shaped childhoods and grounded families. And beneath it all was a simplicity that now feels almost poetic. Life didn't need to be perfect to feel fulfilling. It only needed connection, creativity, and a little courage. These memories remind us why those years matter, leading naturally into how they compare with the world we live in today. When we compare those 1980s habits with life today, the contrast is striking. Modern routines are safer, more organized, and guided by technology that keeps everything running smoothly. There's comfort in that structure, and most of us appreciate the convenience it brings. Yet something about the old spontaneity, the unplanned visits, the instinctive problem-solving, the easy trust, feels quietly missing. The world was slower, more personal, shaped by small freedoms we barely noticed at the time. We may never return to life exactly as it was, but the memories remain precious. They remind us of the communities that raised us, the independence that shaped us, and the warmth that defined a generation. And if you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, subscribe, and when you see on your screen, tap it to watch next.